Can you tell me a little bit about how you consider the impact of your work on the world? Hi everyone, and welcome to another mock interview with Exponent. Today we're here with Toma, and we're going to be doing a product management behavioral question. Kay, would you like to introduce yourself before we get started?
Yeah, thanks, Nema. Hi, everyone. My name is Kay. I'm a product manager at Snapchat. Previously, I was a PM at Microsoft. Originally, I started out as a software engineer at Microsoft.
Lovely to have you, Kay. My question for you today is, can you tell me a little bit about how you consider the impact of your work on the world?
Yeah. So I think I want to start off just to clarify with you and make sure I give you what you're looking for. Are you asking just like my general philosophy, or are you looking for like specific examples of the work I've done so far?
Let's start with general.
Okay, sounds good. Can I just have a moment to like collect my thoughts and
Absolutely.
thanks. All right, cool, thanks. So I would say that how I think about the impact of my work on the world, I generally think about it across three main criteria. So there's a bit of a quantitative aspect and then a qualitative aspect. So for starters, number one, I'm thinking about what's the number of users, what's the number of people that I am able to help? How many users am I touching? Number two is, what is the size of that pain point per user? So for example, if I'm like changing the color of a button, it's probably not making a big difference in their day. But if I'm delivering a new tool or feature that's like helping them automate their updates, that's going to create a huge difference in their life, right? And then number three is about, is this an area that I'm personally passionate about? Is it a space that personally resonates with me? Is it aligned with my values? So how I think about this third criteria is kind of like, is this the direction of impact where I want to be making impact? Is this a space where I want to be making impact? Mm-hmm. So when I'm thinking about how I'm delivering and driving results, I'm thinking about it across these three criteria.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. So let's say when you're working with your teams, do you use these criteria to prioritize work that your team is going to work on?
Yes, we use some of this criteria. So I guess I was, so I would say that I was answering the question, I guess, more generally of like the work that I've done generally. Okay. So that third criteria of like, oh, is this an area that I personally care about? I think I have less influence of that necessarily in the day-to-day, because we're prioritizing more on the criteria of the end user's needs. And so it's really on, I think, a bit more on those quantitative aspects. So number one and number two, which I mentioned.
Got it. Okay. And then I'd love to hear a couple of examples maybe on where are some instances where you've had to employ these criteria to figure out what your impact is, and did that affect any decisions that you made?
Yeah. So I guess I can give an example actually of the work that I've done at Microsoft and sort of how it led me to my work at Snapchat. Mm-hmm. So at Microsoft, I worked in Windows Update. And one of the things that I loved about joining Microsoft as a new grad, and one of the reasons I think Microsoft is great for new grads to join, is that you can have such a huge impact right off the bat. So for example, actually, one of my first projects when I started was that I designed and implemented the Windows Update targeting system that targets the update for over 700 million devices every year and is still used to this day. And so I was having a tremendous level, of impact in terms of our end users, right? We were improving the end users experience. We were seeing this new targeting system was able to decrease the number of rollbacks. So we were able to decrease the number of rollbacks during updates by over 10%, as well as help my partner teams. So a big reason why we pushed for this initiative was to minimize the number of SEV ones that kept occurring per release, which is, you can imagine, if you're doing an update to 700 million devices a year, you definitely want to keep that number to close to zero as possible, which is what we were able to do with the new targeting service. And so this project, I think, is kind of I think, textbook example of a lot of the work and opportunities I got to do at Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
I was easily touching millions, if not hundreds of millions of users. And I could also help them in a pretty serious area of pain point, right? Especially imagine in this remote world, we're all on our computers all day long. You really want to minimize the disturbance of an update to your end user.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my favorite parts about being a product manager is working directly with customers. And so it was always so rewarding talking, especially with our commercial customers, learning about their feedback after we did releases, how we would improve the deployment process, how we improved the end user experience, and just like seeing the results that we had on real people's lives, making it easier there. And so while I loved my time at Microsoft, I got to work on amazing projects and amazing opportunities. Over time, I realized, I had focused less, I think, on that third criteria, which was, is this an area that I personally feel passionate about?
Mm-hmm.
And as much as I loved helping our customers and supporting them, I wanted to look for something that I think personally resonated with me, which is why I'm so excited. And what led me to my new position here at Snapchat, where I work in the content creation space. And so in this space, I get to work with, again, like tremendous impact across millions and millions of users on really prickly problems, specifically in the content creation space, as people establish themselves and build out communities, and then in a space that I personally resonate with. And so
I'd love to hear a little bit more about what is it about the content creation space that really draws you to the problems in that area.
Yeah. So I think, to be honest, it's like the entrepreneurship of content creators. I
Yeah.
have major respect for
Mm-hmm.
just seeing people build out entire businesses and brands and communities from really
Mm-hmm.
nothing, and seeing how, like, I think, especially across this pandemic, like TikTok is a leader in this space, right? They've really democratized the access of building these kinds of communities and spaces. And so being able to support the creative dreams and endeavors of users is really rewarding.
That's lovely. Thank you so much, Kay. I think this was that's a great answer to the question. I think we can stop over here, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you think that went and how you would advise other people who get this question to answer it in their interviews.
Yeah, thanks. So I think, reflecting on my own answer, maybe I think I could have, because I'm specifically answering an Amazon question, so I'm really trying to touch in and lean into those principles. The one that I was really trying to lean into was deliver results. I think it always helps to like emphasize, I think, that specific principle, as well as like the very specific task. So I think I touched on it, but I think it wouldn't have hurt to like maybe get into a little bit more detail there.
Got it.
In general, I would say I'm happy with my interview. I think behavioral questions, just like product design questions, we shouldn't get too hung up about sticking to a structure, right? And I think that's like Exponent's philosophy, which has helped a lot of interviewees, including me. And so I know, like, when it comes to behavioral questions, we talk about STAR a lot, but not necessarily every question should be STAR, obviously.
Yeah. No, I think that's, so my feedback to you, I think that's, you've hit the nail on the head that you don't always need that very rigid structure in answering questions. What I do like, though, is that you provided your own structure. You mentioned that, here are 3 things that I'm going to talk about that really fulfill, that I think cover the basis for the question that you're asking me. And that helps because a lot of times behavioral questions can be a lot more extempo. You could just talk and tell stories, but if there's no arc, then it's really difficult for the interviewer to take away what you want them to take away from that question. So by giving them structure and something to follow, that makes the interviewer's life a lot easier. So I'm really glad that you did that. Secondly, what I thought you did really well is I asked you, have you used this to like prioritize things that your team works on, for example? That was kind of a mean question on my part because I feel like it's a bit of a trap sometimes, especially because the third thing that you said was, you're looking at whether you are passionate about a particular area and what results you can have in that area, right? And one of the biggest pitfalls, I think, in behavioral questions is a PM saying that they're making decisions based on what they want and what they think is right. So I feel like you just swatted that question away beautifully. It was just, no, I don't really use that to make decisions for my team, because maybe the first two things make sense because those are very quantitative and data oriented, but the third one is just my personal preference. And it was like you were reading my mind when you answered that. The third thing I want to call out is that these kinds of questions are probably more common in startups than they are in large companies, I would say. So like when startups are trying to assess, what do you care about? What do you as a person really care about beyond giving me frameworks, beyond giving me like textbook definitions for how strategy works, et cetera, and things like that. And that's because I feel like a lot of startups really want people who are going to stay for the long haul and are really going to care about the area that they work in. So when I pressed you on, what is it about this, what is it about the creator economy that you really like? I thought that was a very genuine answer, that you're interested in the entrepreneurship part of it. It's like you have a respect for people who create something of their own and are creating their own audiences from scratch on your platform. So I would recommend that anyone who gets a question like this with a follow-up like that, especially, just really try to think deeply about what is it about the company that you're interviewing with that could connect you to their mission, and how can you convince them that you really care about that thing, even if the third criteria of your answer isn't things that I'm passionate about, or this is the field that I'm passionate about. So I thought that was really well done. Thank you, Kay.
Thank you, Nema. And I think that's a great point about startups in particular.
Yeah. And I hope this helps everyone at home who's watching and preparing for their own interviews. Good luck, everyone.
Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons below to let us know that this video is valuable for you. And of course, check out hundreds more videos just like this at tryexponent.com. Thanks for watching and good luck on your upcoming interview.